What if I told you that the companies that see the most explosive, just market-dominating growth in the fourth quarter actually built all of that momentum while their competitors were out drinking margaritas at the beach?
I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true, right?
Right, but it's actually reality. Welcome to today's deep dive. If you're listening to this, you're probably someone who, loves continuous learning, that feeling of wanting to optimize your time, especially during those supposedly slow summer months.
Oh, absolutely. The summer slump.
Yeah, exactly. So today, we are tackling a massive piece of conventional business wisdom. The whole idea that the summer season is this unavoidable dead zone where progress just, grinds to a halt.
Which is such a pervasive myth.
It really is. We've got this incredibly insightful article today from Stella Pop. They're a management and creative agency, and the piece is called How to Create Hockey Stick Growth, Even During the Summer.
It's a great piece, really provocative.
Yeah. So our mission today is to completely debunk the myth of the summer slowdown. We want to extract their blueprint for building exponential momentum while everyone else in the market is supposedly asleep. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, it's the perfect challenge to tackle because Stella Pop starts by dismantling the psychological barrier that honestly almost every organization falls victim to.
The story we tell ourselves.
Exactly. They argue the summer slowdown is mostly a self-inflicted wound. It's just a story businesses tell themselves about the calendar. And through collective behavior, they manifest it into reality.
I can totally see how that happens. A couple of key decision makers go on vacation, right?
Right.
And then an important meeting gets pushed back a week. And suddenly the entire C-suite just decides, well, nobody's buying right now.
Yep, the dominoes fall.
So marketing pulls back on ad spend. The sales team, stops doing their outreach.
Yeah.
And the product team just slows their sprint velocity.
And this is the crazy part, when revenue inevitably dips in August, leadership points to the calendar as the culprit.
See? We told you summer was slow.
Exactly. They completely fail to recognize that the calendar didn't halt the momentum. Their own reaction to the calendar did. When you expect the market to hibernate, you basically put your own operations to sleep.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Total self-fulfilling prophecy. And this misunderstanding stems directly from how we visualize hockey stick growth.
Right, because when most of us hear hockey stick, we immediately just picture that sudden aggressive spike upward.
Yes.
We think of the overnight success where a company's revenue just goes totally vertical.
We obsess over the blade of the stick, but we completely ignore the handle.
Handle.
Yeah, that long, flat, horizontal line that precedes the upward spike, that is an invisible runway of just intense preparation.
Oh, I like that.
In physics terms, the flat part of the stick is where you're accumulating massive amounts of potential energy. It's weeks and months of doing the unglamorous work.
Like what exactly?
Clarifying market positioning, overhauling broken sales pipelines, integrating technology stacks, just building internal discipline.
Okay, but I want to push back on this premise just a little bit.
Go for it.
Because, we can't ignore the physical reality of July and August. People actually are on vacation.
Sure.
B2B buying committees are heavily fractured. There's almost always at least one stakeholder out of the office at any given time, right?
Very true.
So you cannot physically force an empty boardroom to sign a contract. If the buyers are genuinely unavailable to close a deal, what is the point of burning all this energy trying to force growth? It's like watching a marathon and only cheering for the final sprint, completely ignoring the months of grueling, quiet training.
Well, what's fascinating here is how that exact fragmentation is the underlying mechanism that creates the opportunity.
Wait, how so?
Yes, it takes longer to get a 6-person buying committee into a single Zoom room during the summer. But consider the cascading effects of everyone else believing the slowdown myth. Because your competitors pull back on their marketing and their sales efforts, the overall noise in your industry drops drastically.
Okay, so the signal-to-noise ratio suddenly tips in your favor.
Precisely. Ad inventory gets less crowded, which, often drives down your cost per click.
Which is always nice.
Right. And the prospects who are still at their desks, they're being bombarded by 50 cold emails a day, which means they actually have the cognitive bandwidth to read a thought leadership piece you publish.
That makes a lot of sense.
And most importantly, your internal teams finally have a reprieve from all that chaotic, reactive firefighting of the spring rush.
The busy season.
Yeah, that breathing room. That is your runway to fix the structural issues you've been totally ignoring.
Wow. Okay, that reframes the summer entirely for me. Instead of a dead zone, it's basically a low-friction building phase.
Exactly.
But let's talk about execution, because when highly ambitious people feel a dip in momentum, the natural instinct is to just panic and push all the buttons at once.
The shotgun approach.
Yeah. We tell marketing, hey, double your social media posts. We force sales to make twice as many calls. We launch 3 messy new campaigns.
Which is the trap of doing more. Stella Pop explicitly warns against frantic activity here.
Because it doesn't work.
Think about a city highway system. If there's a major accident blocking, like 3 out of 4 lanes, releasing twice as many cars onto the highway doesn't speed up traffic.
No, it just makes everyone angrier.
It just creates a much larger, more frustrating traffic jam. Throwing more activity at a broken system just amplifies the failure rate.
Okay, so if frantic activity is the wrong move, what's the alternative? How do we find the accident on the highway?
By implementing what we can call the bottleneck strategy, true growth only occurs when a company isolates the single specific constraint that's preventing qualified customers from moving forward.
So you just focus on one thing.
Right. Leadership needs to sit down in a quiet room this summer and just ask one question. Where is the exact point of failure in our current revenue engine?
And that requires some brutal honesty, I'd imagine. Because the default answer from a sales team is almost always, well, we just need more leads.
Always. But it's rarely a volume problem. If you look closely at the data, the bottleneck is usually highly specific.
Like what? Give me an example.
So you might be generating thousands of website visitors, but your messaging is so muddled that literally nobody understands your value proposition.
Oh, right.
Or maybe you have plenty of leads, but your sales team takes 48 hours to follow up, by which time the prospect has already moved on to a competitor.
Yeah, they're going.
Or perhaps your proposals require so many internal legal approvals that the deal just stalls out and dies on the vine.
So you really have to isolate that one broken lane and dedicate your entire summer to clearing it.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, fixing that primary bottleneck simplifies the entire business. A lot of those secondary urgent fires that companies chase, they're actually just downstream symptoms of the main constraint. And Stella Pop points out that one of the most common bottlenecks, especially for B2B companies, is a complete lack of a continuous content engine.
Yes, I saw that in the piece. They note that companies usually only start creating content when they are absolutely desperate for leads.
Which is too late.
It's a terrible strategy. It's like trying to dig a well when you're already dying of thirst. You have to build it before you need the water.
That's a perfect analogy.
Like you have to build a database of answers before the customer even knows they have a question. But how do you stay disciplined enough to focus on that one bottleneck when everything else feels so urgent?
Well, the psychological mechanism at play here is the mere exposure effect, combined with cognitive ease. Buyers don't want to be educated by a salesperson on a cold call.
Nobody wants a cold call.
No, they want to educate themselves on their own timeline. Content acts as a silent 204/7 salesperson. But, and this is key, the standard corporate approach of posting, like Happy Friday or generic company updates, that does absolutely nothing to drive growth.
Right. So what does a functional bottleneck-breaking content engine actually look like?
It requires extreme consistency and hyper-relevance. You don't need bursts of random creativity. You need a library of assets.
Okay, like what kind of assets?
Executive perspectives on shifting industry regulations, detailed case studies mapping out exact ROI, checklists that help a buyer diagnose their own internal problems.
So it's very utilitarian.
Highly utilitarian. Every piece of content must help the target customer recognize an unseen opportunity or make a smarter decision.
Right.
If you quietly publish high-value, problem-solving content every single week from June through August, you're building psychological familiarity.
So they get to know you.
Exactly. So when September hits and you finally ask for a meeting, you aren't a stranger anymore. You're a trusted advisor.
Okay, let's pivot to distribution. Because building a great content library doesn't automatically mean anyone will actually see it.
No, it just sits there.
Right. We need to talk about fueling this engine with ad spend. The article takes a pretty hard stance here. They state that your advertising budget must mathematically match your growth goal.
Yes.
Like you can't expect massive Q4 returns on a tiny maintenance level summer budget.
Think of advertising spend like a controlled chemical reaction.
Okay.
You have a massive amount of market potential out there, but to spark a reaction to turn a stranger into a buyer, you need to introduce enough catalyst, which is your ad budget, to reach the activation energy.
I see.
If you only trickle like a few $100s into a campaign, you never cross that threshold of awareness. The reaction just fizzles out, and then you conclude, oh, well, ads don't work for us.
I love that analogy. But how do we define enough catalyst? Like, how does a company actually calculate a summer ad budget without just throwing cash into the algorithmic void and hoping for the best?
Right. Nobody wants to do that.
Give me a concrete example of the math behind this.
Okay, let's walk through it. A smart budget is reverse engineered from the lifetime value of a customer, or LTV. So let's say you run a specialized consulting firm, and an average client stays with you for 3 years, bringing in $150,000 in total revenue.
That's a good client.
Great client.
But
Because that LTV is so high, you might determine you're willing to spend $15,000 to acquire just one of those clients. That is your target customer acquisition cost.
got it. So we have a ceiling of $15,000 to get one signed contract.
Exactly. Now we work backward through your conversion rates. Let's assume your sales team closes 10% of the qualified leads they speak to.
Okay.
That means to get one new client, you need 10 qualified leads. Since you can spend $15,000 total, you can mathematically afford to spend $1,500 to acquire a single qualified lead.
Wow, okay. That changes the perspective entirely, because if a marketing director just walks in and asks for $1,500 to generate a single lead, a lot of CEOs would totally balk at that expense.
They'd laugh them out of the room.
Right. But when you tie it to the $150,000 lifetime value, it isn't an expense at all. It's a highly leveraged investment.
Exactly the point. So during the summer, you invest that budget to test multiple messages, target different audience segments, and just gather data. You use the quiet months to calibrate that chemical reaction.
So you're not just guessing.
Right. By the time the fall rush begins, you aren't guessing what works. You have a mathematically proven formula that you can simply scale up.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Yeah.
Stella Pop argues there's a mandatory growth lever beyond just buying ads, and it involves the leadership team.
This is a big one.
They claim senior executives cannot outsource their voice entirely to the marketing department. They have to be personally, authentically visible on social media.
Yes.
But I have to play devil's advocate again here. Isn't this a massive brand safety risk? If a CEO is just firing off raw, unvetted hot takes on LinkedIn, couldn't that backfire horribly?
Well, this raises an important question about the evolving mechanics of digital trust. Yes, there is a baseline need for professionalism, obviously, but the risk of a CEO saying something slightly unpolished is vastly outweighed by what we call the faceless brand penalty.
The faceless brand penalty. Break that down for me.
Sure. Algorithms on platforms like LinkedIn are specifically designed to suppress company pages and amplify personal profiles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. From a purely mechanical standpoint, a post from a corporate page might reach, say, 2% of its followers, while a post from the CEO's personal profile could reach 20% or more.
That's a huge difference.
Huge. The algorithms heavily favor human-to-human interaction. Furthermore, buyers have developed deep psychological immunity to polished corporate marketing.
Oh, totally.
When a brand account posts about a new feature, our brains immediately categorize it as an advertisement, and we just scroll right past.
But when a human executive posts about, like, a failure they experienced or interesting trend they're noticing, we actually pause.
Exactly.
We read it because it feels like a genuine exchange of knowledge. It feels real.
Yes, and that authenticity builds a parasocial relationship. Prospects begin to feel like they actually know the leadership team long before a sales call ever happens.
Which lowers their guard.
Exactly. And there's a secondary internal benefit that is just as critical.
What's that?
When the CEO is actively sharing insights and engaging with the market online, it destroys internal silos. It signals to the entire company that marketing is a strategic priority, not just a sandbox for the interns.
Oh, I love that.
Right. It gives permission to the product managers, the customer success teams, and the engineers to share their deep expertise publicly as well.
That makes total sense. You're democratizing the company's smartest ideas instead of keeping them locked in boring boardroom meetings.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've diagnosed our bottleneck, we're preloading our content, we're doing the math on our ad spend, and our leadership is stepping out from behind the corporate logo. As we approach the end of the summer runway, we need to talk about the final piece of the puzzle, optimizing what we already have.
Right, because Stella Pop highlights a massive blind spot here. Most companies suffer from an extreme case of novelty bias.
Meaning they only want new things.
Exactly. They operate under the assumption that growth only comes from capturing the attention of complete strangers. They will spend massive amounts of money trying to cold outreach a brand new territory while completely ignoring the gold mines sitting in their CRM.
The inactive contacts, the former clients, the deals that went dark back in February.
Right, and summer is uniquely positioned for reactivating these relationships precisely because of the relaxed atmosphere.
That makes sense.
You aren't calling a past client in November demanding to know if they have end-of-year budget left. You're calling them in mid-July for a low-pressure check-in.
Just a friendly chat.
Yeah. You ask how their year is going, what new challenges have popped up, if there's anything that they need help navigating. A warm relationship, even one that has been dormant for a year, totally bypasses the entire trust-building phase.
Because they already know you.
Exactly. You're picking up on the 50-yard line instead of starting in your own end zone.
So what does this all mean for the actual finish line? Let's say we've reactivated a warm relationship, or our summer ad campaign worked, and a prospect is finally ready to buy. The source emphasizes removing friction from the buying process. I really want to dig into the psychology of this, especially in the context of summer.
Well, we have to consider the buyer's cognitive load.
Okay.
During the summer, as we discussed, buying committees are fractured. The people who are in the office are often covering the workloads of their vacationing colleagues.
So they are stressed.
Very. Their mental battery is running on like 10%. If a prospect says, "I'm interested," and your sales team responds by sending a dense 50-page proposal with a highly complex tiered pricing structure, you are inducing severe cognitive friction.
Oh man, yeah. You're essentially handing them a massive homework assignment when they're already exhausted and just trying to make it to their Friday afternoon flight.
Exactly the outcome. Their brain looks at that 50-page document and categorizes it as too hard to deal with right now. They tell themselves they'll review it after Labor Day.
And we all know what happens after Labor Day.
Oh, yes.
The inbox floods, new priorities emerge, and your proposal just gets buried and forgotten forever. You're basically tripping over your own shoelaces right at the finish line.
That is the perfect way to describe it. Therefore, your mandate during the quiet summer months is to brutally audit and simplify your closing process.
Brutally audit. I like that.
Tighten up the messaging on your website so an outsider can understand your core offer in 5 seconds. Condense your proposals to 3 pages that clearly outline the problem, the solution, and the exact next step.
Just make it easy.
Right. Remove internal legal approvals that add 2 weeks to the contract phase. You must design a buying experience that requires virtually zero cognitive effort from the prospect.
You're clearing all the debris off the runway so the plane can actually take off the moment the engines rev up.
And that brings us to the ultimate urgency of this entire strategy. You must build this runway before the crowd returns.
Before September.
Yes. September is entirely the wrong time to begin thinking about a September campaign. By the Tuesday after Labor Day, everyone has woken up from their summer nap.
And they are loud.
Very. Your competitors are blasting out their aggressive Q4 offers. The noise level in the market goes from a whisper to a jet engine literally overnight.
So if you wait until September to start fixing your bottlenecks and creating content, you're fighting for attention in the most crowded, expensive environment possible.
But if you did the quiet, unglamorous work in July and August, if you mapped out the ad math, activated your executives online, simplified your proposals, and re-engaged your warm relationships, then when the market wakes up, you're already operating at terminal velocity.
It's already moving.
You are midway up the hockey stick while everyone else is still searching for their skates. Growth doesn't start with a magical market condition. It starts with a leadership decision to stop waiting for the calendar.
Wow. This has been such a powerful dismantling of the summer slowdown myth. For everyone listening, let's quickly recap the actionable blueprint we extracted from Stella Pop today.
Let's do it.
First, reject the collective hallucination that the market is asleep. Use the quiet to your advantage. Second, find the specific bottleneck choking your pipeline rather than just generating frantic activity.
Right.
Third, build a consistent content engine that pre-answers customer questions. Fourth, calculate your ad spend based on lifetime value and get your executives talking like real, authentic humans online.
The human element.
Exactly. And finally, simplify your buying process to reduce cognitive load for exhausted summer buyers.
It really is a phenomenal framework for corporate growth. But, as we wrap up, I want to take these principles and aim them directly at you, the listener.
Oh, I love where you're taking this.
The source material talks extensively about the self-inflicted stories massive corporations tell themselves about summer being a dead zone. But what is the summer slowdown story you are currently telling yourself in your own life?
That's a great question.
Whether it's your own career trajectory, a complex skill you've been wanting to learn, or maybe a personal side project you've shelved, we all have our own internal version of waiting for September to get serious.
Waiting for the perfect time.
Right. So consider this. What is the single personal bottleneck you could quietly fix right now in the background while the pressure is off?
What is the potential energy you can store up right now?
Exactly. What systems can you build or what knowledge can you acquire while everyone else is metaphorically at the beach waiting for the calendar to give them permission to start moving again?
The invisible runway.
Remember the marathon analogy. The true race is won in the quiet, unglamorous hours of training when absolutely nobody is watching. Your summer is your runway. How will you use it?
What an incredible thought to leave on. The training doesn't pause just because the crowd went home. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the consensus, keep building that runway, and we will catch you next time.